disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it, man.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
You just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. Yeah, because you got nothing.
Lobito!
You got nothing.
I want to get out. I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another BD Boxing podcast. Did something happen? I don't think anything happened. Let me tell you something. When you get a 10-8 round from the beginning, you don't look back. Fellas, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. We got a fantastic show for you because a lot happened last night and there's a lot to get to. So we're going to be opening up the phone lines in about 45 to 50 minutes, depending on how everything goes. Like I said, there's a lot to get to. Very special episode. So, guys, thank you for joining us. Don't forget, if you want to donate a couple of shekels our way, you can certainly do so via the Super Chat feature. But it's always better if you use the BDA membership program. The BDA membership program, you get more bang for your buck in return. All right, fellas, shout out to you. The most important thing, though, is that you join the show. Fucking hit the like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And you can check us out on Spotify, Spreaker, and iTunes at your leisure. All right, fellas, let's give a shout out to everybody out there in the chat. Alonzo, amazing, hard recoil. One foot out the door, extending his BDA membership program. Shout out to him. He says, go fund the BDA PC fund. Well, that time it wasn't my fault, fellas. That was the whole block, I think, went out. The electricity, so can't control it, fellas. That's out of my control. But with the grace of God and with his strength, we get past everything. Shout out to J. Colt, Double L, Joker, Super Sardonic in the house, Grim Reaper, Olaf Larson, Super Sardonic, to Abuela. Shout out to Abuela and check out his channel. Some of the best YouTube boxing community compilations you will ever find on this fine community. Shout out to the Quags, Hassan Ahmed, Blues Boxing, Lucky Zim, Team Batman Boxing, Vladi V, Mueller's 27, and many more people to come. I'm sure, fellas, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hooey. All right, let's get back to it. I got the Guns and the Jim Marino here. Fellas, are you there?
Yellow.
Please
hey,
don't
how's it
do
going?
that. All right, good to have you guys on board, fellas. All right, let's start out with the big fight, or the most significant fight, at least in terms of rankings and quality on paper. Regis Prograis takes out Jose Zepeda in the 11th round, winning the WBC title. Suppose it was vacant. Two southpaws who can crack. On paper, it proved to be perhaps the most competitive fight on Saturday night, or Saturday, because some of those fights were on the evening here. But nevertheless, Regis Prograis just too much for Zepeda. It wasn't even close after about the second, third round. Fellas, who wants to go first? Give us your thoughts on this fight.
Gonzalo, you want to go?
Okay. Thanks, Jimmy. There was a lot of questions regarding Jose Zepeda, and I think they were all answered. In my mind, I had seen him fight a couple times, but it was kind of a mystery still. I told myself I was kind of on the fence. Who should I pick? I mean, everybody's talking good about him. He was clearly the A-side of this new Marv Nation thing that they had going on. Everybody was chanting Mexico. By the way, they're rocking that Mexico nationalism a little too hard, but anyhow, I found out that his brother's not a legit trainer. Right. Then afterwards, he came out talking about money. But how do I know he's not a legit trainer? Because after 3 rounds, he told Zepeda, "You're down 3," which actually he had won the first and lost the next 2. And after 7, he said, "You're winning the fight." But in reality, he didn't make any adjustments. What Zepeda was doing, basically one-dimensional, coming forward, rock 'em, sock 'em. Yes, he can throw a good jab and a hard left cross because he's a southpaw, and followed up with the thunderous hook. But once he collapses the pocket, and he might hit you. He ends up getting countered harder than what he landed. And on the inside, he doesn't really have any short hooks to follow up. Credit to Regis Prograis. He did better because he was picking him off. He was hanging his head to the side. You know, a little bit of like Sweet Pea. He's also a southpaw, but anyhow, like dipping low at the waist, making it hard for your opponent to find you. Hanging his head to the side, loading up on that shoulder, and then countering Zepeda, as Zepeda was basically doing the same thing over and over again without making any changes. That's what I'm saying. His brother's not a good trainer. So we know Zepeda's a hard puncher, but he needs more variety in his game. Rock 'em, sock 'em again. That's just what he was doing. So credit to Prograis. Zepeda, I mean, where is he at now? He's challenged for a title 3 times. Is he like a Debriachenko? Maybe a Chris Arreola, the one that never was? Somebody was saying he's a champion, but I heard him in Un Round Mas, the Mexican podcast with Eric Morales. I don't think he's ever held a title. Somebody was talking about that on Discord. But anyways, okay, maybe in the Flanagan fight, injury. The second fight, it was close. Many people thought it was robbery. So he's not legitimately a guy that's in Debriachenko's shoes, fighting for a title 3 times and losing all of them per se. But he is a guy that gets hit, like when against the Belarusian dude Baranchik. Just because you ultimately won, you ended up getting dropped 4 times, and here you were hurt. He'd been knocked out to the body before, so there needs to be some changes in his corner. Tactically and in training, hire a real trainer. That's pretty much it, BA.
It's a great breakdown, Gazelle. That's a great breakdown. May I just add something real quick before Jimmy goes? Yeah, the trainer, Zepeda's trainer, he's part of the problem. I usually don't like throwing trainers under the bus after one bad performance because, hey, shit happens. The trainer's not there fighting. But in this scenario, I think you were bang on with your assessment of him not giving him the proper instructions in the corner. Jimmy, you want to go ahead with your take? All right, Jimmy is muted.
Yeah, sorry again. Yeah, no, it's the mute button on my phone or something. It's going a little haywire.
The cat's got to
you. So going into the fight, we said you just don't know with this kid. You know, he comes in sometimes, he looks like a world beater. You know, like when he goes out and he starches that kid from New York City in the first round, he was angry. Maybe he's got to be, I don't know, but he just looked like he just doesn't. It's odd for a Mexican fighter not to have that. You know what I mean? Most Mexicans want to take your head off.
Mm-hmm.
He has power, but he doesn't want to seem like, you know, he just always leaves you wanting more. He's like the Mexican Daniel Jacobs. You know, he just leaves, doesn't leave it in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Just something missing. There's just one tangible missing that's just doesn't bring him to the next level. Prograis is a tricky dude to hit. He's a tough out for anybody at 140. He called Zepeda the toughest kid he ever fought, meaning like, you know, in a post-conference about, you know, taking shots. But yeah. And what's really sad is it's probably a halfway decent fight that nobody saw because it was on IFL pay-per-view. I don't know how the numbers done. I haven't heard anybody talk about that, but another example of the sport kicking itself in the dick, you know, putting a fight like that on pay-per-view is just further atomizing the sport. But, I don't have really much to say after what Gonzalo said. I just pretty much echo what he said.
In regards to the, we're talking about Zepeda, but here's the thing, Regis Prograis, one of the things we were talking about in the build-up to this fight was the fact that Zepeda, he doesn't have that oomph in him, as Jimmy said. But one of the reasons why we were picking Prograis in the build-up to the fight was because they're both guys that fight with their hands down. But here's the difference. One of the moves he's had, the other one doesn't. That's Zepeda. He keeps that right hand low, and he relies on maybe dipping a little bit, or slipping one shot, or using his legs to get out of the way. Whereas Prograis can stand in front of you and just continually move that head side to side, changing levels, making himself very difficult to time. And the other difference in this fight was the jab. Usually when you have two guys that like to fight from the outside, they're both quick, they both hit hard. What's going to be the difference? The jab. Because it's the quickest jab, it's the lead hand, And that's what Prograis was using throughout the whole fucking fight. Just snapping Zepeda, not moving his head, had a clear target in front of him. I'm not saying that he was hitting him at will, because like I said, Zepeda has good reflexes and with his legs. But for the most part, while Zepeda's looking for a shot, Prograis has the ability to just tap him with a little jab here, a little jab there, and he's piling up the points. And again, people underestimate the power of a jab. If you're getting your head snapped back, eventually it starts affecting your back affects your legs, and before you know it, you're a sitting target. So that's one of the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And BDA, when we noticed, okay, when you mentioned that Prograis is moving at the waist, he's not like when Billy Joe Saunders fought Canelo, that he's running into punches or that his movement is out of control. It's kind of steady rocking, herky-jerky from one side to the other. Mm-hmm. And he's hanging his head on the side, waiting for you to do something first, so then he can counter you. He's already hanging and kind of like showing it to you. And dipping at the waist, I mentioned Sweet Pea. But then he's countering you hard, and as he drops that shoulder and unwails that hook, he transitions to the other side of the body where he's loading up on the other shoulder, hanging his head on the side, looking at you from the corner of his eye. So he's basically just reactive, right? And it's not just like all over the place. Well, you know what? It works for him. I think it works for him, so that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're working off the angles right away. You don't have to, like you say, you don't have to exaggerate the movement or the distance of movement, but just continually moving that head side to side a little bit, obviously not always in the same rhythm, same pattern, because world-class guy is going to time you. But yeah, he's a very dynamic fighter. And here's the interesting thing about Prograis. He got to the final of the Junior Welterweight Championship, or tournament, back in 2019, went toe-to-toe with Josh Taylor. You know, different judges, they give him the benefit of the doubt. We could have been talking about Prograis as the lineal Junior Welterweight Champion. That didn't happen. And then for a long time, he was in limbo. But just looking back at his performances, you knew this guy is good. But he was in promotional limbo, just wasting time. But now he's back. And at 33 years old, he looks like he didn't really lose a step. So, my goodness gracious, I'm excited to see what the future brings. May I also say something? Going back to the Josh Taylor fight. Because before the Taylor Prograis fight, I thought, okay, Josh Taylor is going to try to box him the same way he fought Martin, from the outside, using his legs. And then once him and Prograis got together, boom, they started fighting on the inside. And ever since then, I said, well, it's because Josh Taylor really isn't that type of fighter. He's not a long-range guy. Now, in hindsight, I think it was a good decision for him to fight him on the inside, because if you crowd Prograis, which, by the way, Prograis can fight on the inside. Just watch that Taylor fight. But at least now you're no longer giving him the chance to just do what he wants on the outside. Once you got him on the inside, you got him pinned, and he's not going to move the head that much or as much as he does on the outside. But like somebody mentioned in the chat, Zepeda's not that type of guy. In fact, he seemed to be completely clueless about how to fight on the inside, which is strange because he had a good left hand to the body that he was landing, but he just seemed completely out of it too. So, you know, I think credit to Prograis, he just took him out of his element. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, because the good example, I think, is the 10th round when Zepeda nailed him with one of his best shots, and Ray Flores was like, oh, he got him. Then they were all confused because after he hit him with his best shot, he was the one tying, because he hit him with the best shot and they kind of collapsed the pocket simultaneously. And instead of following it up with some short work on the inside, he crowded him because he realized that Prograis was about to counter, as he was doing throughout, basically before, through the course of the fight. So instead of following it up, tie up, because I landed my best shot, but then it was kind of confusing, right? But that's what was happening.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like when Zepeda that's the difference of mentality between fighters. Zepeda landed a good shot, and then he would clinch. When Prograis would get hit with a big shot, he would come right back. So again, that's just, listen, this is why the best have to fight the best, or the top guys have to fight each other, because we need to thin the herd to find out who the best is in a division. But there's so many other divisions right now in boxing where the top 10 guys aren't fighting each other. And so we get these illusions or of who's the guy. Well, this guy's undefeated, so he must be good. Meanwhile, he hasn't fought anybody. He hasn't been tested. And although Zepeda had been tested against Jose Ramirez, this was a completely different style that he was fighting, and his limitations were proven. So now Prograis moves on, and it's interesting. He claims that he beat Taylor, or he claims that he can still beat Taylor. But from what I understand, Taylor, once he gets past Canelo, whether he wins or loses, he claims he's going to move up because he's having difficulty making 140. So I guess Prograis now is left as one of the favorites to take the top position here. And what a fucking division this is, fellas, because, I've talked about it before. I'm not going to go through all the names again. But you got upcoming guys like one of the Russell brothers, who the PBC is really trying to push. You got the dark horse in Subriel Matias. You got Jack Catterall, Jose Ramirez. You got Teofimo Lopez, who's going to be taking on the very dangerous Zandor Martin coming up. So, fellas, what do you think about Prograis? What's the biggest fight or the best fight that you want Prograis to take right off the bat, if you could make it?
Who's the champion at 40? Taylor, but he's moving up.
He says he's moving up.
You still got Ramirez and a whole bunch of names. The other guys that are always cloud chasing at 35, calling each other out, I don't think nobody wants to face a guy like Prograis, because they're too young. This dude's in his prime, 33 years. By the way, he's looking more chiseled too. He's looking more chiseled. He's looking bigger, but actually he's making the way more comfortably, according to what I was listening to. There's a bunch of tough guys. Any of them, for example, who comes to mind? Subriel Matias would be a killer fight.
Oh, come on, man.
Who else?
Well, you got to use the term killer.
That Mexican from El Monte, California, the guy that got good boxing ability. I forget his name.
At 140?
Yeah, the one that been... 140, I think. What's his name? Man. Teofimo, he was calling out Teofimo for a while.
Oh, you're talking about Barbosa?
Barbosa. You can fight Barbosa. That's a winnable fight, real easy. He could fight all of them, but a lot of fighters are not going to take that fight against Prograis.
Yeah, I don't think so. This guy's too dangerous, man. He's speedy. He's got seasoning now because he's been up against the best. But Jimmy, sorry, I forgot to ask you, who would you like to see Prograis in there against right off the bat? All right, I think Jimmy's having some mic issues there. But listen, one thing that I was combing through Twitter the other couple of hours ago, and a lot of people are saying that Prograis would beat Jose Ramirez. Now, 2 years ago, I would have disagreed. I would have thought that was a 50-50 fight, but Ramirez really has looked like he's been regressing a little bit, and he gave Josh Taylor hell. But then against Pedraza, he looked a little bit out of it. Not a lot of, he a little bit like Zepeda. He liked that steely resolve, which he's going to need to go up against a guy like Prograis. He's not going to be able to just box him from the outside. So, I don't know, man. But I would be very curious to see that fight. Jimmy, are you there? All right, Jimmy, jump out and jump back in, because I think you're having mic issues. Because I saw it light up. I saw his icon light up, but he can't. But go ahead, Gonzalo. What were you going to say?
I think his mic is freezing up. He's the definition to me of a true boxer puncher. A boxer could be many things. Many people say, "Oh, well, this guy's like this," and guys. No, but to me, if I would have to define, okay, he fits the boxer puncher. And also, I gotta add, he's got a good chin, and he can take a punch very well. He punches hard to the body. So it's gonna be tough, man. With those things, all that package that he has, like the combination of the chin, the punching power, and the boxing ability, he's gonna be very hard for anybody to beat. And him losing to Taylor, he kind of went away for a while, but it kind of hurt him. But in the grand scheme of things, now that he's back, man, it doesn't mean that he's second best to that guy. I just think, man, that the sky's the limit, and he can even move up to welterweight once that division clears up and fight for more money.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, that's an interesting way. I could see that happening. By the way, Gonzalo, people in the chat are saying, like, let's just take a little look here. What people are saying. Henrico says Prograis KOs Haney inside 8. Shadow Combat says he wants to see Regis Prograis versus Subriel Matias. Count me in on that one, man. That would be fantastic. Henrico says Teoshimo is scared. King KO says Prograis will sleep Haney easy. Kevin from Chicago says Joe Rogan versus Prograis. Come on, what the fuck? Let's keep Chicago on. Reverend Pico says Lopez versus Prograis. Now, I see a lot of people mentioning Teofimo Lopez. I don't know if that could happen unless Prograis goes back with Top Rank. But I mean, listen, it's a jam-packed division. So I guess anything could happen right there. I'm going to go right after this, or when I get the chance, maybe before I go to sleep, I'll watch Prograis, Josh Taylor. Because, hey, man, Josh Taylor, man, that was a fucking... Now I'm starting to think that maybe he was off against Canelo. Because he beat this dude Prograis.
Because BDA, like, what I saw, man, this dude's a fucking fighter. Because when he was going from what... He was giving Jose Zepeda different looks. Tilting, hanging his head to this side. Boom, dropping the punch. Then tilting hanging his head on the opposite side. And counter punching him back again. He showed that he was like a fucking fighter. He was catching some licks too, but he kept trucking forward. Like Demolition Man. So that means he's a fucking fighter, man. He's a tough dude.
Yeah, man. And discipline too. Jimmy, I hear in the background. Is your mic working now? Jimmy. I think he fell asleep, man. Because I can hear some, I mean, you can hear some scratching back there, but I can't, or maybe the cats got to him. He's got an interesting theory. Shit. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that. I dropped off, man. I don't know what happened. But yeah, man, it's Ramirez, Ramirez versus Taylor. Ramirez gave, what's the word I'm looking for here? Hold on a second. Yeah, he proved himself a very capable fighter, man. He didn't embarrass himself against Josh Taylor, but against a guy that moves a lot like Prograis, who's not going to give you a still target, that's it could be problematic. But anyway, listen, let's move on to the Dillian Whyte fight before we get to the Parker one. Dillian Whyte ended up winning a decision over Richard Franklin. No, excuse me, that's not his name. Is it Jeremiah Franklin? I forget the first name. My apologies. Yeah, Jermaine Franklin. What am I talking about? By scores of 115-115, it was a majority decision. 115-115, one judge had it. 116-112, and then another one at 116-112. It was a hard-fought fight. It started off complicated for Dillian Whyte, and it never really led off. Even though Jermaine Franklin was inexperienced, he nevertheless, a lot of people, Gonzalo, in the Twitter and in the comment section and the Discord felt that Jermaine Franklin edged it because of his activity level. How did you see it?
No, right before they announced the scorecards, I thought they were going to have it how the two judges that had Dillian Whyte scored it. Was it 8-4, I think? One had it 115. How do you get that scorecard, by the way? 115. I don't think I ever heard that one before.
Yeah, me neither, man. That must have been some 10-10 rounds in there.
Yeah. And I actually thought that Dillian Whyte won. People were saying in the Discord, and this guy was complaining, Mr. Franklin, that he got robbed. I thought Dillian Whyte, he closed stronger. Maybe I didn't pay attention closer to the beginning of the fight to give my best opinion, but I was watching it. I just wasn't scoring it. Just in my eyes, I thought that Dillian Whyte pulled it through. And given that I'm listening to the English broadcasters, and you know they're cooking for the British dude.
Right, yeah. But I mean, yeah, man, I thought it was a very close. But then again, like you mentioned something interesting about not watching the fight closely, because at the same time, the Parker versus Ryder fight started around by the time Whyte and Franklin were on in the fourth round, I believe, that's when the Ryder versus Parker fight started. So I missed some rounds, didn't pay full attention to it. So, hey, maybe those rounds, if Franklin took him, that would have made a difference. Nevertheless, I'd have to rewatch the fight. But I thought it was a very close fight, very competitive. I listen, I'm a body punching guy. So I saw Dillian Whyte landing some huge body shots. I think he was also working that jab pretty well. So maybe I could be wrong. Like I said, I have to rewatch the fight. But here's a big problem now. Because we're going forward. Forget about the past. Now with Dillian Whyte, they're talking about him against Anthony Joshua. And I got to tell you, Dillian Whyte, okay, he cracks hard. This is the heavyweight division. One punch can end it. But Joshua's a bad style matchup for him. because Whyte doesn't really do anything better than Joshua. He's not as big as him, so he's not going to overpower him. He's not as quick. I dare say Joshua's got better boxing skills, and he's a little bit more diverse in there. Just a better fighter. So, if you want to beat a guy like Joshua, you got to be quicker than him, taking him out, kind of like Andy Ruiz, or way quicker and way better than him, like Alexander Usyk. Other than that, these low, ponderous heavyweights, really their best shot is to land one bomb and taking him out. And even then, Joshua, for as much as people like to claim him as being chinny, it's going to take more than just one shot to ice him. And I don't think Dillian Whyte has that. Gonzalo, what do you think? Am I off here?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I was thinking the same thing with Joshua. He got dropped hard against Klitschko a long time ago, but then he got up, won the fight, as everybody pretty much everybody knows. And the time he got dropped against Andy Ruiz, it was more because of fatigue. Yeah, he got dropped multiple times. I think it was 4. And I think he gained a little confidence back with the Usyk decisions. Although they were losses, he went the distance. So he kind of recovered maybe some self-belief. Well, granted, Usyk's not like a huge puncher because he's a smaller dude coming up. But, when they used to say that, okay, maybe Joshua's chinny, he probably is feeling a little bit more confident. On the other hand, Dillian Whyte, I don't know if he's got the security in his chin because he's been iced with one punch, as you mentioned. Right, and I think it's one of those things that when you get knocked out with one punch, you lose confidence that maybe the next time you blink and you open your eyes, you might find yourself looking at the lights. And it's like taking a step forward. You don't know with security. If you might not even feel the punch. So that confidence thing, he might be doubting himself. And that goes against him when you're facing a big puncher like Joshua.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. And people often overlook how dangerous Joshua is and how intimidating it could be to fight a guy like that. Because, he's a fucking big dude. And you can tell that when he launches those uppercuts and hooks and they whiz by a guy, Gonzalo, you've boxed. You know what that is when you're fighting a guy that's heavier than you but who has quickness. And when you make a miss, you can I don't know how else to explain, but you can feel the power even though they miss. You can, like the air, you feel the air. I don't know how to explain it. And that's what I imagine it must be like to be in front of Joshua because he's a fucking beast in there. And you can get to him, but you put yourself in a position where he might catch you. And again, that's a 240-pound guy in there. It's no joke.
Yeah, he's got good form too. The way he throws his punches, it's like he's got real good form. I guess that's why he's popular too. The mechanics. Maybe they say he's a robot, but the way he throws the punch, it's like it's like picture perfect, kind of like Canelo.
I used to compare both guys in terms of their rhythm and their style. I'm glad you agree with me because when I used to say that 2-3 years ago, people were like, "Wow, they're nothing alike." They're similar in that they're very explosive, very muscle bound, and they can't fight for the whole 3 minutes of every round. That's why I see similarities between them. And I'm telling you, Joshua, okay, he's got 2 straight losses right now, but look against whom he lost. He lost against fucking Usyk. He didn't lose to a clown. So I think people are going to be surprised if the Joshua Whyte fight happens. I think people are going to be surprised at how easily, well, not easily, but I think Joshua takes that. I'm fairly confident in that. Then again, I could be wrong because moving on to the other fight that we had this Saturday, John Ryder ends up upsetting, in my eyes, Zach Parker in a bizarre fight. Things seem to be going well. Parker was getting a little bit tired as Ryder started to push on the pressure a little bit. Then all of a sudden, boom, they pulled Parker out there in the 5th round, and they claimed that he was injured. I think the commentators said broken hand. We won't know until they actually show some proof, some x-rays or doctor statement, whatever. But a lot of people are pissed off at how it ended. Some people are even saying that Parker quit. Gonzalo, what do you think? What's your assessment?
He had that look in the corner, like he was tired of impending doom. Like that David Haney look, like that when you're running out of ideas and the guy's like closing the distance. The look of despair. That's what I noticed. And before the fight, really, I didn't know who this guy was. I heard he was a power puncher. To be honest, I had never really seen him fight before. But I know that basically he's got brought up in the UK. I don't think he's ever fought abroad. And he had a lot of power, a lot of knockouts. And what Ryder, what I did know, okay, a lot of people mentioned that he got knocked out one time, long time ago. But that was only one fight by knockout that he had lost. But the fights that I had seen him fight, he showed improvement because he got 5 losses. Or actually, he does pretty good against the Jacobs of the world, the contenders. He's short, stocky. Because I mean, I haven't seen all his career. But anyways, I was saying, man, I like how that dude fights. When you hit him, he gets his get back. And I'm not gonna say, okay, he got a bad chin just because he got knocked out one time, long time ago. No, so you asked me, I was like, man, dude, I'm going for that guy Ryder. He's pretty good. Now he's a contender. He's a tough dude.
He's very, you know what? He's very similar to Canelo in a way, in terms of physicality. And since he does something that a lot of short guys don't do, or shorter guys for their division, which is he moves ahead well. He slips punches well, parries punches well, which is why he gave Callum Smith such a hard fight. I remember before the Canelo-Callum Smith fight, we were watching a lot of Ryder clips, a lot of John Ryder clips, because he really did make Callum Smith miss a lot in that fight. Callum Smith never seemed comfortable. In fact, some people could, based off that fight, they determined that Callum Smith was sucked, and therefore Canelo was going to win easily. And yes, indeed, Canelo did end up winning easily, but that's not because Callum Smith is a bad fighter. It just so happens that Ryder's a good fighter as well. And that's why, like a trooper in the chat says, crafty. Yes, that's the way I would describe John Ryder. And so now the big thing about this is a lot of people are saying, again, Parker shit the bed or that he quit. And that's what just want to stick to that a little bit here for a while. The commentators said, well, the corner pulled him out because of an injured hand. Now, the cornermen, first of all, they're not physicians. And second of all, they can't determine the extent of the injury by looking at the hand or feeling the hand because it's encased in a glove and, of course, the wrapping. So the only determination they can get to is based off what the fighter tells them. So when people are accusing Parker of quitting, depends on what he told the corner, right? Because he's the only one that can tell. Usually that's how guys quit, by the way. It's when they'll complain about something and then the corner will go, well, what do you want me to do? And if the fighter stays quiet, that's usually attached to the agreement of, you got to pull me out of this fight. But Gonzalo, that's the thing I don't get, because you said that he was getting tired, but it was only the 5th round. It wasn't a Cotto Margarito thing where he took a beating up until the 11th, 12th round, and that's when he said, you know what, I got nothing left. Do you think he quit, or do you think there might be something to the hand issue?
Yeah, if I said tired, I didn't really I don't think it was like total a tiredness. I think it was like, for example, John Ryder looks stocky, like a little fucking ball, like what's it like? Bivol Cruz, man. I mean, this guy he's an English dude, but I mean, he's fucking stocky for 68. He's fucking built. I don't know where that guy hit him, but he might have hurt his hand hitting him at the top of the head, maybe in an elbow or a shoulder. That once he realized what I'm punching. This guy ain't going anywhere. Once I punch him, he's punching me back harder, and he's not giving up. It's pretty much, I'm not going anywhere with this guy. It's more downhill for me, and the more he's coming stronger, that it's like, man, what do I got to continue fighting for if the walls are closing in on me? So it was not necessarily tiredness. It was just like the understanding that the other guy was getting the best of him, and it was only going to be worse from there on.
Well, that could be. I'm not ready to throw him under the bus yet, Parker, that is. I'll wait to see what comes out in the media. But then again, though, since the Teofimo Lopez excuse that he used against Kambosos, where they claimed that he had a torn esophagus, and there was a doctor note, I think a doctor did indeed back that claim up, but I'm very dubious of that claim, so I don't even trust really the doctor's testimony anymore, unless I see physical proof. And even then, you just don't know if that was doctored or not. Nevertheless, like I said, we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, the big thing here is for Ryder, there was speculation prior to this fight that the winner of this bout could get a shot at Canelo when he comes back from his own surgery back in around May, I believe. And so now Ryder seems to be in the front of the line to get himself the Canelo payday. Gonzalo, what do you think about that fight?
Yeah, that would be a fun fight. That would be a fun fight for sure. Because I think John Ryder could probably take a good punch. And it's like, once you get knocked out one time, it's not the end-all be-all. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's got a bad chin. Because people will come back and say, oh, well, yeah, he lost to Canelo. I knew he didn't have a really good chin because the Parker guy was garbage anyhow because he had got knocked out one time about 5-6 years ago. Man, it is what it is, man. Right now, if I would have to qualify his ability to take a punch, okay, he fought Callum Smith. There's another one. You could pick out good and bad points in regards to if he could take a punch or not. But for now, I'm saying that dude certainly he could take a good shot to the body because he's fucking like he's stocky and he's got like a tight core, man. Mm-hmm. And to the chin, he probably can too. And he's also probably improved defensively to where he can deal with, like, for example, Joe Smith Jr., he was fighting, Cal Smith Jr., he was fighting this taller dude in Parker. Now he's going to face Canelo. Canelo can hit hard, but he's not like a fucking monstrous fucking puncher. All right? He got other things. He's the total package minus the stamina. But if you're telling me, okay, John Ryder, what is he? He's a pressure fighter. In my opinion, he got stamina. He can rival Canelo, and maybe in that department that Canelo lacks. And if he also can take a punch, as I was mentioning, well, he's not going to ice him with one shot all of a sudden. So it's going to go some rounds. It's going to be a fun fight. And there's two guys that are kind of like the same height. And it'll be like a back and forth battle. Right? Interesting.
It will be interesting, man. And I want to add something to what you say, which is, again, the both guys are similar in terms of physicality. Short, stocky guys. Canelo seldom encounters guys that can match his strength. Golovkin was one such fighter. The last guy before that I can remember who could match his strength was James Kirkland. In fact, Kirkland looked stronger there a little bit, the way he was able to back Canelo up in certain instances. So this is going to be another instance in which Canelo is going to be fighting a guy who's going to be just as strong as he is, perhaps even stronger. And I don't think it would be an easy fight for Canelo because, like I said, Parker is very elusive in there, crafty. But one thing that he does, and I will hold this against him, is the fact that he's not all that active in the ring. He doesn't let his hands go enough. And against a guy like Canelo, who also has suffered from activity deficiency back in a couple of fights, nevertheless, Canelo is, I do believe, the more accurate guy, the more seasoned guy. So that could play into Canelo's hands. But then again, Canelo would be coming off a layoff and surgery. So could be tricky for him to fight against Ryder. The other thing that I want to mention about that is some people are already complaining about that Ryder fight. And they're saying, well, why doesn't Canelo fight Benavidez? Well, again, Benavidez has a date set against Plant first. So he has to get past that guy first. And although Benavidez will be the favorite, it's not the type of guy that you want to overlook in Plant. Second of all, like I said, Canelo has to get his fight first, a little bit of a tune-up coming off that surgery, and I doubt that he would get it in with the ring with Benavidez right off the bat in May. So I don't see the problem. And again, Ryder actually right now has a better resume than David Benavidez. And people love to talk about, well, what about the eye test? Yeah, okay, the eye test. But these same people are the ones that criticize Canelo's resume and say he's never fought anybody. But then they're pushing Benavidez as, well, okay, yeah, he hasn't fought anybody, but the eye test. Well, let's see him beat Plant first, which I think is going to happen. That's what I expect. But we don't have a crystal ball, so you never know. Caleb Plant, if he gets overlooked, could pull off an upset. You never know.
Yeah, in regards to Ryder, he earned the title opportunity, I think, because that's how the chips fell. That's how the cookie crumbled. Okay, Andrade was supposed to fight Parker, but Andrade ducked. He didn't want to face him. Now, Ryder fought Parker, and Ryder beat that guy. So now he's the one that's getting the opportunity. It's not like he was handpicked, right?
That's right. Exactly, man. Yeah. That's what a lot of other people have been saying, Gonzalo, that Andrade really You know, he's mismanaged his career, man. He should have. It's interesting that Eddie Hearn gets all these guys the correct fights. It's almost as if, you know, hey, listen, if you're an up and coming fighter, right? And you get a lot of upside to your career, and you want to make the best of your career financially, legacy-wise, who are you going to sign? Are you going to sign with Eddie Hearn, the guy who comes from a lineage of promoters, sports promoters, not just boxing, but other types of events, which isn't easy to do, by the way, to set up an event. Hearn has proven that he can set up big events in England and across the world, and that he's managed fighters and led fighters to big paydays and legacy-type fights. Or do you sign with Al Heyman, former music producer, who's only really famous because he was able to guide Floyd Mayweather. Once Mayweather had already been financed, by the way, by the HBO coffers when they were at the apex of the boxing world. Really, are you going to sign with that guy now? Not the guy that's not getting any of his other fighters active? The guy that's already partially ran HBO to the gutter, did the same thing with Showtime, and who was rejected by NBC and Fox Sports because they didn't really like the product he was putting out. Are you going to... See, I think now most people are starting to realize, hey, maybe Eddie Hearn, for all his faults, is actually one of the best promoters out there compared to guys like, or outfits like the PBC. I don't know. I'm just saying. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Gonzalo. Sorry, excuse me. You were going to say something?
Yeah, what's up, Mr. Rudy?
Well, I was going to say something. Amok said something interesting. He said, Parker is an English muffin bum. The judges were getting ready to rob Ryder again. That's because he's referring to the fact that Parker was ahead. But I just realized something here. Some people are saying that one of the judges for the Whyte fight was Adelaide Bird. And I'm trying to Google it to see if it's true or not. In a lot of these articles, all I'm seeing is one judge had it this, blah, blah, blah. One judge had it that. But they never actually mention the names of the judges. Why don't these publications name the judges more often? Because that's one of the things I've been trying to do on this show is to hold these judges accountable and to build a database. Every time there's a bad decision, to really hold the fire under these people's feet. And I don't see the fucking names. You think that's by accident, or you think they're doing it deliberately?
Most likely, probably like deliberately, because that's just I would say like a long tradition, or from what I remember, it's like part of the procedure. You mentioned the judges, their names come up on the screen and whatnot. You know, at some point they say, well, this guy, and that guy, they're the judges.
Ah, okay, yeah. Well, Super Sardonic,
it's kind of like one of those things they're trying to get away from me. You know, don't ask, don't tell. But exactly. I'm glad you caught it, and some other people did, like Amok or Sardonic. Well,
yeah, and Super Sardonic is saying that Bird was judging the undercard only. But the fact that she's still judging, I mean, it's very worrisome, very worrying, and I don't know. I smell some hijinks afoot, and I don't like it. I'll say that much right now. What else was I going to get to here? Well, yeah, those were the fights that took place last night. Very interesting. And next week, we got another batch of good fights. Well, I mean, relatively speaking, we got a big event with Fury and Chisora 3. I think that fight's going to suck stylistically. I'll be very surprised if Fury overlooks him and actually gets caught with something. But we also have Estrada versus Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. We're going to talk more about that fight as we get into it next week. And then the week after, we got Go ahead, yeah.
I was going to mention, I follow some Mexican publications on the internet, and I saw that they're supposed to be, I don't know, how many days is the fight away? 7 or 14? Or I think it's like 10 days. Well,
you talking about the Estrada
they're
fight?
They're supposed to be, the Estrada fight.
Yeah, I think that's 7 days. Because excuse me, six.
So there was supposed to be a weight that they get on the scales today before the fight that they're supposed to make the weight before the 7 days or at the 7-day mark prior to the fight taking place.
Right.
Chocolatito made it, and Estrada was MIA.
Whoa.
So I mean, that's what's supposed to happen, but he hasn't done it.
That's not good, man. That's not good, especially since Estrada looked like crap. Well, by the way, RG, the guy who gave Estrada hell, actually fought last week, I believe. on the Mugia undercard against a short guy, very short guy, but was strong, tough, and Adhi went the distance with the guy. So Adhi's got some skills. He's got some craft in there. He spent some time under the tutelage of Nacho Berenstein. So Nacho doesn't just take anybody at this point in his career. So the fact that he's under his tutelage really shows you Adhi's got some moxie to him. But I don't know, Gonzalo Estrada. I don't know which Estrada to expect next Saturday. But we'll see what happens.
I think the biggest thing that I saw recently with him that, okay, he's getting older and maybe he's not the same, but that's gonna kind of benefit him in the rubber match against Chocolatito. His size, that dude is bigger, and they're kind of the same age. Oh, I don't know if they are, but they've had pretty lengthy careers. That if Chocolatito's really like more skillful and more complete. And I mean, he's an all-time great. Estrada's also good, but if you can get the best of Chocolatito's way smaller, and Estrada's looking like a little bodybuilder, like a little Darchinian, like those people from Armenia. Fucking, he looks buff, big biceps, strong, and it kind of makes me wonder why didn't he get on the scale to make that weight for the WBC? Because maybe he's just gonna try to cut the weight all of a sudden and blow back up, where he's just going to be much bigger than Chocolatito, if that makes any sense.
It does make sense, and hopefully we do get a good fight. Because listen, this December, it's not the most scintillating end to a year. Usually, the past couple of years, we've had some fantastic bang-up fights on paper to end the year. This isn't one of those years, but I mean, we have been having some fortune. For example, Xandar Martin coming in, replacing Pedraza against Teofimo Lopez, that makes it a better fight. So we have been lucky in that regard. Then, of course, you got Estrada versus Chocolatito. And on December the 10th, the same day as Lopez versus Martin, we also have Venado Lopez taking on Warrington. That's going to be a banger. Gonzalo, I know you're looking forward to that one as well. So, we got some...
Looking forward to both of them with Pedraza falling out, the Teofimo, I mean, he got a pesky style, with them Spaniards. They got good feet, as we saw today in the World Cup, right? They can really tiki-taka with the feet, though. They can really move.
Well, they got the flamenco.
Yeah, that guy's... What's that?
Well, they got the flamenco and the zapatea. What do they call it? That Spanish dance when they're with the flamenco and they're tapping the feet. It's not tap, but it's... I forget, but they get good footwork.
I can't think of the name.
But they do have good footwork. You're right. You're absolutely right. Hey, Gonzalo, I got to go wee-wee real quick before we get onto some of the other subjects. And at the same time, we're going to open up the phone lines. But if you could take over for a couple of seconds here, you want me to leave you with a question, or you want to read the super chat? I mean, the chats, or you want to just go off on something you've wanted to talk about? You let me know, man.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention some things about the Venado versus Warrington fight.
I'll be right back then. All right. Hold down the fort, please.
Yeah. I saw Warrington come out with advertisement for the fight in the Dillian Whyte card. And I don't know, a few days ago, where he's painting himself out to be like this great warrior to the people of England. And mentioning, well, El Venado Lopez got to come to my yard. Man, I don't know too much about Warrington. I do know, and most people believe, that he quit against Mauricio Lara. If he's thinking that Venado Lopez is going to be an easier fight than Mauricio, maybe not. But I'm going to tell you one thing about Venado Lopez. He's coming. And in his mind, he's not going to be denied. He's a tough fighter. You guys, go back and watch the Andy Vences fight, which, by the way, they were planning on robbing him. He won by split decision, but if you look at that 6th round, you get a good idea of how he fights. He's got a hell of an uppercut. He throws these unorthodox hooks that are wide. But one thing about people that throw these wide hooks and have that unorthodox and could be characterized as a wild style, as long as they're accurate, it doesn't really matter. Think of this great fighter by the name of Daniel Zaragoza. He threw real wild hooks, but he had great timing, so he always landed them. And let me let me add something to that. If you can land these hooks from that are, you could pretty much say that, like, that they're wild, but then you also have power. Think of Chino Maidana. Hey, he threw awkward hooks, but he had great timing. So you got a guy like Canelo Lopez that has great timing when he's landing and also has power. And let me mention something again. Good luck going into a shootout with a fighter like that, because now you're fighting his game. Yeah, he can be beaten, but it's not that easy.
You know what, man, Gonzalo?
Yeah,
you mentioned that to me a couple of days ago about how you don't, and that's when you get a guy like Lopez who's unorthodox and who you don't know where the punches are coming from. You don't want to get into a firefight with that guy. You would think you would, because he lifts his chin open down up in the air, and he's a very wild guy. But he's used to doing that. Other guys aren't. So it's almost like Nassim Hamed. Remember back in the day, Nassim Hamed, people would see him with his chin up in the air, bad technique, hands down. So they would think, all right, I'm going to catch him with something. But no, more often than not, he wanted that to happen. And what happened when fucking Marco Antonio Barrera fought him, he said, nope, we're not going to get into a firefight. I'm going to outbox you from the outside. And that was the weak point there for Hamed. So, and that's the other thing. Warrant is no Marco Antonio Barrera. He's not that type of outside fighter. So you could be right, Gonzalo. You could be right. I'm very excited to see that fight.
I seen him some of the hooks that he throws. He doesn't even, not even bend the elbow. It's like he can, like, if he sees you're moving back, he'll throw pretty much like a clothesline, like a freaking helicopter blade, where the elbow's not. It doesn't have any play. So that means there's less chances that you can miss if you're also chasing with your feet. So as the other dude's moving back, if I can chase you with my feet, and I'm pretty much ramming you with my arm without bending the elbow like a regular hook, where you turn, you bend the elbow, and there's more play where the arm becomes like shorter in a sense as you're turning into it. When you keep the arm straight and you're basically chasing that dude with the freaking clothesline, you can adapt with the footwork and closing the distance and tracking that dude's head down when you, as you're moving, I think. So basically, he's not that tall, but he's chasing you down with the whole idea that I'm going to catch you. I'm going to catch you with the hook.
That's an astute breakdown, and I would agree, man. He's looking to... I tell you, he reminds me of Fernando Montiel, and a little bit of the Martinez, the guy that recently lost to Chocolatito, in that they don't really set up things with their jab. It's mostly they make you think that they lead with hooks, they lead with uppercuts, and you just don't know where the punch is coming from. Hey, by the way, shout out to Tu Abuela for reestablishing his membership program. Shout out to Tu Abuela. He says, the other day I needed help with my grocery bags. The manager yelled, and some guy named Andre helped me home. I gave him a payday of $5 and a slap. Come on. Now people are throwing a fucking poor Andre under the bus, man. I mean, listen. Might not have been Andre's fault, man. Or maybe it was. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think the guy's ever going to get that Canelo payday. So we'll see what happens with him. Listen, I'm going to open up the phone lines. And in the meantime, we'll get into some YouTube or not YouTube.
I wonder what the hell happened to Jimmy, BDA.
Yeah, I sent him a message, man. He hasn't fucking replied. I already know he's gonna say. He's gonna say hold on a second. He's gonna say he's been having trouble with the device because he couldn't find the mute button, and then I think at some point he dropped off. So yeah, I think he might be having some technical issues, man. Fucking technology, man. I'm telling you. But
yeah, I think boxing is here now, like El Chapulín Colorado.
Yeah, Chief is jumping in. Chief, are you there?
I am here. Am I here to save what day?
What that?
I thought Gonzalo said I was here to save the day. I said I'm here to save what day?
No, he's kidding. He's kidding. But I wanted to say something here. Good to have you on board.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds.
Hold on a second. 4, what's going on?
3, 2, 1.
I can hear her. All right. So the phone lines are open in case anybody wants to call in. Excuse me, in case somebody wants to call in. There you go. Numbers right there in the left-hand portion of your screen. All right, I wanted to get into this. Chief, you came in just in the nick of time here because we're talking about Andrade and how he's not getting that Canelo payday. Last night during the Zepeda versus Prograis fight, Bivol was in the crowd, and apparently Charlo was as well. And there was a bizarre exchange that took place between them. Let me play it for you here. Hold on a second.
You want to fight me? You want to fight me? Why not? I'll fight you. Come on.
So Charlo's asking him for a fight, and then check this out.
But my goal, to be honest, fighting for belts.
Undisputed, right now. You want to fight me?
You undisputed.
But we have to ask Canelo to vacate those titles first.
Okay, so Bivol says, to be honest, though, he's more interested in undisputed, talking about 175. And then Charlo goes, no, you and me undisputed. It's like, what? Undisputed where? That's why you heard somebody on the outside there, outside the frame say, well, Canelo would have to vacate the belts at 168 if that's what you're talking about, undisputed. So can somebody please enlighten me about what do you, again, I know it's speculation, but what do you think Charlo's referring to?
His self-absorbed situation of the fact that fighting him would validate anything more than what Bivol's already accomplished.
Oh.
I mean, all right, look. I've said this before. When the Charlo brothers first came out, I was high on their skill. I liked what they could do, especially Jermall. And that's the one that was just on the screen. I liked the way he was supposed to beat, I can't remember his name, Brundridge. But it's the way he beat Brundridge. It's the way that when he hurt Brundridge, he didn't let Brundridge fall on top of him and smother his punches. The way he took half a step back and he knew his range and what to do. That was then. Now, here we are now. He hasn't had a fight in over a year. He struggled against Montiel, who lost this last fight. May have had 100% knockout ratio from wins to knockout ratio, but was knocked out in 2 rounds by Munguia, even though that's at 147. And he's struggling against this guy. He has not, and we've said this on this air plenty of times, there's nothing he's done at once since he's moved up to 160, set the world on fire to let us go, yep, he definitely deserves to be in any conversation in any weight class. He hasn't. But he thinks he has. He's undefeated. He's a champion of 2 different divisions and undefeated. So he, in his mind, he believes that he's on top with everybody else. His thing on Instagram was even the face of boxing. So he believes that he is that, or else he's projecting it to try and convince others that he believes it, and that hopefully they'll follow along. One of the two. I'm not a psychiatrist. But
well, we've got Charlo on the line saying something about that.
Oh, bullshit, nigga.
Oh, he's saying bullshit.
Sure, okay, well, I would love to hear him.
Bullshit, motherfucker.
Okay. Anything else?
No, but so yeah, so that's your assessment. Other people are saying that he might have been high. He didn't look high to me, but he did. What he was saying certainly would lead you to believe that he might have been high. Gonzalo, what do you think?
I don't know the saying in Spanish, but it's called sangre pesada, like that type of blood that rubs people the wrong way. It's something about your personality, like real abrasive. And I think he's just kind of loopy, and I can't say, man, he's just an awkward guy. And the thing I do have to say, he's an awkward guy. He makes people feel uncomfortable, but there you have it, like that Filipina, what is it, the one that she does interviews, she's in the back with that cheesy grin, holding up the phone, trying to record them, and then you got these dudes come here like with your bromance, fucking hugging, and oh champ, it's okay, yeah, like trying to like rile this dude up like he's the fucking the man, dude, like. And these dudes trying to play security, like I don't know, just clout for the TV, for the YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
that's a good point, man.
That dude, like Bivol, he was more sober-minded, and really, that English is not his first language. What he was saying, do you even have a belt at 68? You know, Bivol was just telling him, okay, I'm just kind of agreeing with you, but in reality, Bivol's a 75-pounder.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe Charlo was surprised. He's shorter, and look at me, I'm fucking huger than this guy. And this guy's a champion. Basically, Charlo was clout chasing. He was fucking clout chasing the guy that knows he's getting the popularity because he's doing the work that he's not doing. They will take in the fights, man.
Yeah, Bivol seems surprised too, man. When the guy says, "You and me fight," he goes, "What?" What are you talking about? Yeah, it was bizarre, man. But Charlo, you got to feel for the guy a little bit because, you know, he went on the Mike Tyson podcast months ago, and the reviews were bad for him. The way he just didn't push for fights. I mean, which again, it's kind of bizarre because on the one hand, you don't like a guy talking too much, but at the same time, you want to hear him at least be enthusiastic about his career and say, "Listen, I want at least say that you want to fight everybody." But now that's cheap as sale with Charlo because he's the guy that's been saying, "I want to fight everybody" for years, and then he doesn't fight anybody. So it's almost like the boy that cried wolf. Well, not the boy that cried wolf, but you just don't believe anymore is what I'm trying to get at. And so now. I mean,
it's ironic. It's ironic you bring that up because that's a Russian tale, and we're talking about Bivol.
That's a good point. I didn't realize that, man. Yeah, but
if I may, real quick on Charlo and that whole scenario, even though I went a little long-winded on the previous part, Bivol did look surprised because he's at the stage of what do you have to offer me? Like, you're challenging me, okay. I'm not afraid of anybody. I've proven that. I'm not afraid of any scenario because a lot of people might crack under fighting Canelo under all those lights. Didn't face him a bit. So I'm not worried about anybody challenging me. I'll take on any challenge. Great. Now, what do you have to offer? You're going to move up. You're not bringing any money with you. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
Any money that is brought with it is off of my wins and my work based off of what I've done against Canelo, not your work. And you don't have a belt or anything for me to drop down and wait to fight you for. If you're not coming up to 175, what are you bringing to the table? It's not money. It's not a title. If it's a name, I've already got a name. I've got the name. I've got Canelo on my belt. And he's looking to try and fight me again. So again, what do you have to offer me?
Yeah, didn't this Charlo also go up to, what's his name? Caleb Plant before the Canelo fight and say, "Hey, after you're done with Canelo, me and you are gonna fight." I think he did that. We actually played the clip before the fight. That was the same Charlo, that's bizarre, man, because he just keeps calling everybody out, and those fights never materialize.
The thing that I did notice, PD, I think is genuine jealousy. Because if you look at Dimitri Bivol, he's probably made more money than Charlo. But in reality, look what Bivol's done. I think he's a future Hall of Famer at this stage already. People want to take pictures with him, the masses. You know, like Costa Zoo, like Nonito Donaire. Like when you're like a bona fide, like world champion, pound for pound, potentially an all-time great. Kids want to take pictures with you. The Vargas children, the other Hall of Famers, they want to be in that picture, and it's like this energy that's contagious. He's not getting any of that. Exactly. So he's got to take his hater ass. He's got to take over there and trying to get a little bit of that shine. But when he gets close to him, I think in his heart of hearts he feels that he's not on his level.
Yeah, because that's a good point, man. Because look, I remember Larry Holmes, he gave an interview once, and he said, obviously after he was retired, and he said, look, when I was an active fighter, Don King would always tell me, when these guys ask you, when these reporters ask you about why you're fighting, tell them legacy. Never mention money. And Larry Holmes said in that interview, but it was about the money. He says, I wouldn't do this shit for free, he said. And it's the same thing with these fighters. Yes, it's about the money. I don't think they do it for free. But at the same time, even though they are fighting for money and they want to make as much money as possible, it's also about the legacy. They do care about legacy. And a guy like Charlo, look, he's in his 30s now. He's looking back at his career, and like Gonzalo said, he's comparing himself to other fighters because that's what fighters do. And how many people really want to take their picture with the guy? What's his legacy? Has he? Because even a guy like Gatti, for example. Or excuse me, he passed away. So let's give it to Fernando Vargas. His career was cut short. He really did become past his prime early in his career because of injuries and so on and so forth. But now, even now though, you watch him in the streets or at boxing events, people still crowd him. Why? Because at least his legacy was, when I show up in that ring, I'm giving it my all. A guy like Charlo can't even say that. He hasn't created.
He was fan friendly too. I mean, we know that I'm not a big fan of Fernando Vargas, but when it came time of pleasing the masses and everything else like that, and even when I first met him at the box office way back when he was an amateur, he still knew how to talk to people, and there was like a charisma about him that people wanted to go up and speak to him. They just did. Whether his personality turned you on or off as you got to know him is a different story, but people wanted to go up, and he welcomed it. He didn't have a personality that turned people off saying, I don't want to meet this guy. And so, and then on top of that, he's fought Trinidad. He's fought De La Hoya. He has a legacy. He beat Corte. He had several title defenses under his belt, and he won the junior middleweight twice, and he was the youngest person to ever win the junior middleweight title, barring whenever Canelo might have picked up his belt. He was, I'll have to check on that part. He was prior to Canelo, whether that record stands or not, I don't remember. But I back to what I'm saying is that, and piggybacking off of Gonzalo, is that people want to be around the greats. The people and the greats that people don't want to be around are the ones that turn people off easily. Vargas wasn't one of those guys. And Bivol doesn't appear to be one of those guys. He's soft-spoken, but he fights well in the ring, and he's got a charisma about the way he was dressed. He's a put-together guy that knows how to carry himself in public, and people want to be around that.
Yeah, and you know what? He's also fought the best, even though at times he can be a little... his fights can be a little repetitive, and they like drama because he's so dominant, but he's fought the best. The other thing is that he said the right things too that fans want to hear, which is, hey, listen, I'm not in. He's poo-pooed a little bit on the Canelo rematch and has said that he's more interested in the Beterbiev fight, even though the Beterbiev fight wouldn't bring him as much money. Nevertheless, he's showing that, or at least saying that he is a true sportsman and that he wants the biggest challenge out there and not necessarily just the most money. So that's another thing that's endeared him to the boxing fans. And I think a lot of other fighters could take a borrow from his page and actually act more like fighters for the people, as opposed to them just looking at the people as, these guys, they're just... Because listen, I know, Chief, you're a Crawford fan, but Crawford and Spence, they've given me the appearance in their tweets and what they've said to the media that they just really don't care that much about us, the boxing fans.
They're boring. They're boring people. I mean, it's not disrespect to them. They don't have this charisma I was just talking about with Vargas. Vargas had 10 times the show power as a 19-year-old kid who hadn't even turned pro yet than the two of them combined in their entire pro career. It doesn't mean that they're bad fighters. They are entertaining fighters that know how to put their show on in the ring, but then the charisma thereafter just isn't there from either one of them. And I am a big Crawford fan, so I'm saying this as a fan. His personality is just so laid back and boring. It doesn't endear anyone to want to be around him and draw to him and buy his fights and be there and be around him. There's nothing either one of those guys actually do to do that. There's something about Canelo that people are drawn to him. When they want to see him win, lose, they admire him, they don't, doesn't matter. Same thing, Bivol's getting to that point because he's been putting the work in. And again, it's the way he carries himself. He carries himself like a professional, and people want to be around that. And there's a potential huge fight with him and Beterbiev, and people are entertained that really follow the sport, entertained with that. But your Charlos, they're trying to draw interest, but it doesn't work. And Spence and Crawford, I like them both. I really do. I am a big Bud fan, but I'm also I'm not an anti-Spence guy. But they just don't have that it factor where people are automatically drawn to everything they do, regardless of social media. They're just not that endearing to fans. It may be the fact that they don't care about everybody else. We don't know, but what we do know is the fact that no one's waiting to see the next social media drop from either one of those two.
Yeah, and listen, it seems interesting. I'm reading the chat while I'm doing this. Some people say, well, Charles being protected, but that makes you wonder too. Protected for what reason? He's not a big draw. Even Jermall Charlo, when he fought in Texas against Castaño, which was a supposed, it's an interesting fight on paper, and it was a significant fight for all the marbles. They really draw that much people in the, it wasn't the biggest venue ever. So I don't know, protected for what is what I understand. And then even then, if you look at Jermall Charlo as a fighter, it just doesn't look like, based on the limited data we have on him in terms of big fights, he's not all that good either. I mean, look, Kobrov, a lot of people feel should have beaten him. And that was a Kobrov that was a late-minute replacement because he was going to fight on the undercard at a higher weight. So he actually had to cut weight more than expected. And he was training for an 8-rounder and actually went 12 rounds with Jermall Charlo. And actually, a lot of people feel he should have won. Charlo then struggled with Montiel, which MMA champ referred to as a drunk Mexican. Meanwhile, Montiel then goes on to fight Adames, and Adames butchers him. So just makes you wonder really how good Charlo ever was and how good he could be at this stage of his career. And especially if you look at his biggest win, or his most significant win, which was against J-Rock, that was 6 years ago? And ever since then, J-Rock hasn't quite lived up to the hype either. So it makes you wonder, man. Makes you wonder.
Yeah, I'm with you on a lot of that, especially when you say, and the fight I'm going to bring up you have everything you said is opposite of that. But when you say, what are they protecting him from? Well, why did they protect Pernell Whitaker so much? He wasn't a draw. Unless he fought Chavez or De La Hoya, he didn't bring anything to the table because no one paid to see him. He got good ratings on regular TV, just like Bud. But when it comes time to actual people paying extra, i.e. pay-per-view, he needed not just a dance partner, a big-name dance partner. He couldn't sell with Buddy McGirt. He couldn't sell with Wilfredo Rivera. He couldn't sell with anybody else, anybody at lightweight. So he just couldn't sell. In the meantime, Hector Camacho selling pay-per-view, fighting Vinny Pazienza and Boom Boom Mancini, two guys that were not on their best winning streaks or past their primes. So, but the Doofus still protected him. They protected him most of his career. They cashed in with Chavez, protected him again with a bunch of no-hopers until he fought De La Hoya, lost a controversial fight, knew they had nothing left, so they threw him straight in with Trinidad and to cash in the last payday they could get with him. But they did protect him most of his career. There's a lot of no-hopers that had no chance of winning on the other side of that for most of his career. So my guess is when you have something that's a commodity, whether it's a huge commodity or not, if you have a belt holder who's undefeated in 2 divisions in Charlo, or someone who's got a quote-unquote pound-for-pound title like Pernell Whitaker, you protect it for a while because it is an investment. You've put money into it, and it is bringing you in something. But it's not really as much it's not really a long-term huge cash-in investment. And to Jonathan Morrison, he was very skilled, Pernell, but he was very well protected also.
Interesting. I mean, I'd be interested to get more into that in another episode, maybe later. But I just want to remind people to hit the like. Please hit the like, and the phone lines are open. Gonzalo, I see you're on mute, man.
Yeah, hello?
Yep.
I'm also thinking that I mentioned it before. Like in boxing, you could have 2 brothers. Okay, maybe they're not twins or identical twins, they're brothers like the Ruelas brothers, or family members like the Spinks who become world champions. But most of the time, I think if you're a twin, one guy's going to be better than the other. Because I have a lot of twin experience because I'm a twin.
Oh, yeah,
one guy's going to be better. You have the Leonardo Baez twins. Maybe one guy's better than the other, the Maloneys. Let me bring it out of boxing. Maybe like the Serena Williams sisters. One tennis player is going to be better than the other one. So it's a great thing that you have 2 brothers that are world champions. But if the Jermall, the younger one, is done better throughout his career, it's you would think, okay, he's doing better. I don't think maybe the other guy's the weaker link, the older brother. That could be one of those things.
Could be, man. Could be. There was a point where I thought Jermall was actually better than Jermall, but
and most people did when they were first turning pro. He looked like the better between the two because of the power situation. Jermall wasn't showing a lot of power in the beginning. He's growing into some, obviously, off of his record lately. But Jermall was the one that was really showing the skill with the power, and that's what drew everybody to him.
And it could be something mental, BDA. Like one guy, maybe physically they're similar, like DNA wise. Well, that's not always the case because Inoue can punch and his brother can't punch at all. But maybe these guys are physical, but he might have a mental problem where he suffers from depression. Look, he fights once every year. He can't get up. He's having problems with this chick, I think, with this girl. That's a fix a fighter.
That's true. I mean, that's something. Listen, there's a couple of things that affect anybody, especially in sports, and that's drugs and women. I mean, that'll get you most of the time. I wanted to mention something. Hey, Gonzalo, you mentioned this Serena Williams and the other, like the Williams sisters. They kind of look like the Charlos, but with wigs on. Now that you think about it, just a little aside there made me realize that. But look, well, let's hope the Charlos that train's gone by. But hey, as a person, hopefully he does. You don't want to see fighters just wallow away. So maybe he gets his shot one day. You would hope. The other thing I want to talk about is interesting. We're going from fighters who might be past it a little bit to fighters that still have a lot ahead of them, but they're the new breed of fighters, the new breed that loves to talk on the internet and not necessarily fight. And I'm talking about Tank Davis. A lot has been going on with Tank Davis in that supposedly now finally he's getting away from Leonard Ellerby and Mayweather, guys that have on the record held him back. And that is the guy that's being protected because he is a draw at the gate, and he's the only golden goose that Mayweather promotion has. But of course, it's been an acrimonious relationship, and now apparently Davis has once again said on Twitter that he's trying to get away from them and might be getting away from them. In fact, that's what Jimmy confirmed to me. Hopefully he jumps back on. But I want to tell you now about what's been going on with Davis here. He's going at it with Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson on Twitter. Let me break it down for you, fellas. So this is the leaked... Hold on a second. Where is it? It's not showing up on the screen. Hold on. Let me try another way here. Somebody leaked, I think it was Devin Haney, or Shakur Stevenson rather, leaked his conversation that he had with Tank Davis. And this is the conversation. So they're tweeting back and forth, right? So Gervonta told Shakur Stevenson, don't worry, I won't miss. Shakur Stevenson then said, bitch ass N-word, shut up, you ain't on shit. And then this is what Gervonta Davis released. He says, this ain't you. You just got nuts because you're getting a little hype. You a little N-word. Stay in your place. And then Shakur Stevenson released this text where, okay, no, in this back and forth text, they were still going back and forth. I don't know who the blue guy is. Oh, I think that the gray one is Gervonta Davis said, shake my damn head, bitch ass. Hold on. Bitch ass N-word, get out of my DMs. And then he said, even though you be on some BS, fuck that N-word up tomorrow. I ain't got no beef with you, blah, blah, blah. All right, so that's one set of what's been going on there. Again, they're speaking a whole other dialect. I'm trying to, if somebody could help us translate what they're saying. And then Shakur Stevenson, this is what he said on Twitter again. He said, and this is you. I'm the same little N-word who got you back on track right before you became world champion. You forgot? I bet your bitch ass won't tell the public how you told me out of your own mouth. You're not taking hard fights. You just gonna fight bumps and make hella money for it. Fucking F-word. He called him an F-word on Twitter. Hopefully he doesn't get kicked off Twitter. And then he proved, he supposedly he's got the evidence. He says, this Tank Davis, I think, in gray, said, bro, it's all good. I understand, bro. I'm thankful to share and learn and also help you. Trust me, you opened my eyes, getting me back on track of just wanting to be great in this sport. And I'm very thankful that we had a strong camp together. And then Shakur said, of course, my boy, you know we like 45 minutes if you ever want to hang on some outside boxing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's saying if you want to hang out. I don't see Tank Davis admitting in this text that he just wanted to fight for the money. Do you guys see it?
I don't see him admitting, no. And again, but that was an offline conversation that he put out there, and it didn't look like Tank confirmed or denied anything that took part in that conversation, regardless of what Cord did or didn't hear. None of us are going to know because we weren't part of it. That was an offline conversation in a gym between two people. Well, and since there was no mics there, none of us are ever going to know what was fully said. But Tank did not deny any of it. He didn't validate anything that Shakur said, and he didn't deny anything that Shakur said. That's all we can really get from that at the moment.
Very dramatic indeed. Gonzalo, what do you make of this new generation of fighters really going back and forth on the internet?
Jimmy's back.
Oh, the Jim Marino. Good to hear good to hear the cats didn't get to you. Those stray cats. It's like a horror show. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a horror movie, where you take in some stray cats and then they turn out to be evil cats and they get to you or something.
Hey, pull my eyes out. Yeah, no, technical difficulties, but it is what it is. But no, one thing happening right now, man, with Davis is I just saw an interview with him. He was on a live, face talking with somebody and arguing with this dude about how he did against Haney and Shakur in sparring.
Mm-hmm.
Like sparring growing up in forever. It was always one of those things you just didn't talk about. It was one of those kind of unwritten rules. What stays in sparring, you leave that there. You don't bring that shit to light. And for him to be sitting there arguing about, I beat him in sparring, I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like, you're actually counting that? I mean, all you heard about was before the Zerto fight, I heard a lot of people who thought Zerto was going to beat Bivol were, oh man, you hear the stories about them sparring together. He worked them, and I'm like, yeah, but that don't mean shit. It could be Bivol could have been working on something different that day, been looking at, just like you just can't go by that. And for him, that's what he's arguing about, and just it's silly. Although he hasn't been back with what makes me, it looks like it's really for real about him leaving and being staying with Al Heyman, but I don't believe Ellaby's tweeted since the 17th. So that dude would spend all day on Twitter. The night they announced the fight back on the 17th, but that they had done everything but set the date was the last time he's even been on Twitter. So clearly something's happened over there.
Well, if so, good for Davis, because maybe actually he'll get some people that are actually interested in the well-being of his career and not just making money. And we'll try and actually build a legacy for the kid. You may not be able to eat legacy, but you know what? When your career is over, if you're not smart with your money and you don't have a legacy, then then what are you? With all due respect, I loved some of the junior lightweights from the 80s, but no one's talking about Tony Lopez anymore. He's not in the Hall of Fame, and he's not exactly rolling in the dough. He's not broke as far as I know, but he's not rolling in the dough for all the money he made. So if you don't have, it helps to have both, but you at least need one or the other, And right now, with the way he looks like he invests his money with his cars and his gold and everything else, he better have a legacy.
Hey, you know what, man? I'm very despondent about this scenario. And by the way, let me just show you guys, because Tank Davis, like Jimmy said, he went on the record saying that he beat both Haney and Shakur up. This is what he said. He said, and Michael Benson tweeted this, by the way, this graphic, and he says, Davis said, I've been in the ring with both of them. I cracked both of them. I sparred Haney twice. His father had to take him out of the ring. I almost knocked him out in the Floyd Mayweather gym. Actually, he didn't mention Shakur Stevenson. Then Haney replied by saying, truth be told, I beat the shit out of Tank. Somebody around here got the footage besides Floyd. And if you so-called almost knocked me out, what stopped you since when we heard of you stopping from knocking anybody out? I don't understand what he means by that. And then Shakur Stevenson says he waits until he gets 2 fights lined up to start talking crazy. If he believes that lie he just tell him to fight me then. And be real about sparring. If you're going to come up here, tell them how you learned so much sparring me and you wanted to train with me and everything. So, first of all, I'm very despondent because these guys love to talk about how they're going to fight each other and they love to talk about sparring and who won in sparring, but they don't actually fight each other. They're more interested in winning a Twitter war than actually fighting each other. I mean, because it could be easily done if they really wanted to, I would assume, to fight each other, despite what the promoter, the lines, the political lines that have been drawn, they could fight each other. But no, they're more interested. So this is going to backfire on them, at least in my eyes, if they don't actually fight each other. All this barking, this jawing back and forth, and then they don't fight each other, that's going to look bad. Just, hey, at least say, hey, listen, send me the contract, blah, blah, blah. But no, even Shakur Stevenson the other day, he had the sniffles. Some people were claiming he might have been on some, he might have been nose skiing, if you know what I mean. He turns on an Instagram live. He starts talking about how I want to fight this guy, I want to fight that guy. Yeah, but all these guys, I don't know. I'm getting tired of these Twitter wars. I mean, they're entertaining. They give us something to talk about a little bit, but it's cringe, man. I got to tell you.
I mean, if it helps sell tickets to an event of something, once a real offer's been made, negotiations have been done, and a fight's been signed, that's one thing. But right now, it's just a bunch of guys that knew each other. Most of them knew each other from the amateurs. I have no idea where Tank fit in that situation because he's so much older than the other two. I mean, he's 27, and the oldest one after that would be Stevens at 25. So they may have fought each other in the amateurs, but Haney turned pro early at 17. I don't know if he ever fought the other two. They may have been prospects, and a manager got them together, kind of like the way people got De La Hoya and Mosley to do some sparring with Shane while they were still amateurs, not with Chavez. I mean, when they were still amateurs, maybe something like that happened behind the scenes. But I mean, come on. I don't see where their paths crossed too much. Number one, and number two, it was how long ago was that? I mean, if
That's
you're
a good
28,
point,
there's
yeah.
some people are saying that Tank is 28. Thank you, Danny and Shadow Combat 28. So if he's 28 and they're like 25 and younger and 24, and this sparring match was at least 3 or 4 years ago, how young were these kids? How far along in their career were they? How close to world championship status were they at that time? Because Haney just barely has crossed the world status level, even though he may have had that belt that was mailed to him years ago. Kambosos was his indoctrination into real world-class fights. That's this year. So how long ago was this? And what does it mean?
I mean, I beat kids up all the time at the gym. You don't hear me bragging about it. That's the way it should be done. Like Jimmy said, what stays in the gym, what happens in the gym stays in the gym. That's a good point. And hey, may I also add one last thing here about that, or for the moment, rather. What's his name? Bill Haney has countered the story. He said that, no, Devin Haney made Tank quit. It was the other way around. Now, excuse me for being dubious about anything that comes out of Bill Haney's mouth, the Muslim extremist, but there's different versions here. So it just turns out that, again, it's a Twitter war. Anybody can claim anything. I beat you up. No, I beat you up. No, fight. Fight then. Do the best thing for us boxing fans and actually fight and prove it to us and to each other in the ring. Or to one another, rather.
Yeah, in the real world, I think in that division especially, if they were to fight each other, like a tournament, for example, one guy would lose to that guy and that guy would lose to the other. Like, not everybody would consistently beat everybody. I heard Eric Morales speaking about that in those divisions, if you go back in the day, you're not holding the title for that long. Maybe 1-2 defenses and it changes hands. So it's kind of like it raises an eyebrow for me, and it makes me think the guy that says he's gonna beat everybody, ultimately he's just maybe like a fake champion. To me, a guy that carries it for so long becomes suspect. You guys know why. It's happened before.
Absolutely.
It has. Yeah. But this reminds me of it's an old boxing magazine. I don't remember which publication it was, but they were ranking a bunch of people in the lightweight division. We're talking about Cornelius Boza Edwards, Julio Chavez, Pernell Whitaker, Hector Camacho. Milton Taylor was still a contender at the time, if that tells you how long ago this magazine was. And so, Gonzalo, to your point about someone that says, I want to fight everybody, the difference is some people actually do fight everybody, because when I went through that list, Chavez fought everybody that they were ranking. And he was the only one that fought every name in that article. And he's one of the last few people I've known of that's been that kind of guy of walking in, put his feet up on the table, so I'll take on any guy in the room, and he pretty much did throughout his career. Everybody else likes to call out a lot of people. And then, like I said before, people like to protect their fighters. They can call someone out all day long, but they don't send contracts out. The Duvas didn't send Chavez a contract till he was 31 years old. So
and that's the other thing is these guys.
I didn't know what I was talking about. They do protect their guys sometimes.
And don't forget, there's a lot of stealth and shadow play involved. They spy on each other too. Leonard admitted as much in his autobiography. Andrew Ward he was notorious for doing that, or his backers were notorious for doing that. So yeah, man, they might have heard Chavez was on the decline, partying over there in Sinaloa and all that. And these guys.
I firmly believe that they waited until Georgie Benton said it's time. Once Georgie Benton saw a slip, they said, let's do this. Now, I can't prove that, but that's a theory of mine. But what does come through, what I do know is Ali had people that spied on both Foreman and Frazier also.
Interesting.
He admitted it.
And by the way, and those guys, they're kind of popular in boxing with the mainstream media or like the young kids. I don't know, but that doesn't mean that we only have them. We got many more. Ryan Martin, Michelle Ali. We got the dude that beat El Rayo Valenzuela. Even Rayo Valenzuela, that Edwin Dos Santos guy. Who else? There's a whole bunch. El Camarón Zepeda.
Murataya.
The Shrimp Zepeda. Yeah, man. So it's like some of those guys can also be legitimately the goods. Remember, Pacquiao came out of nowhere to beat a guy that was kind of known, like Lava and so forth. So maybe it's not even the superstar that people think that's going to be like the anointed one. It's going to be somebody else. Oh, yeah, Lomachenko.
Oh, you're talking about just lightweights, or you're talking I thought you were talking about like up and coming young fighters overall. No, but yeah, you're right, man.
Well,
yeah,
no, the ones that are like contenders right now, 135, 140. Like, it's not just Shakur, it's not just Haney, and it's not Tank Davis, but just all those guys that I mentioned, and also like a Pitbull Cruz. Yeah, Shakur with that the timing and the distance. Might be able to keep fighters out of range, and maybe Haney with that jab and Tank with the power. But there's also other fighters that got power, length, boxing ability, and this could be one of those guys that's going to beat some of these guys.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And by the way, fellas, the phone lines are open, so call in before we go. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing about boxing right now, especially in this era where the Eastern European market has been open, and there's some guys from the amateurs that they just come out of nowhere. And they got the potential to set the boxing world on fire. You just never know, man. And then you got the Philippines. You never know. Argentina's got some unorthodox fighters that could come out of there. Mexico too. Again, people usually look for the undefeated fighters, but Mexico has a unique position in that sometimes a lot of these guys start out young. They take some losses early on when they're in their teens or barely out of their teens. And then by the time they're 23, they already got like 30 fights in the record, plus experience. Plus, they're not afraid to lose because they've already lost before, and then that's when they turn the fire up. So I'm telling you, boxing is in a good place right now. Yes, it's got a lot of problems, but I'm looking forward to it, man. It's a lot of talent, And again, this whole thing with Shakur Stevenson and Tank Davis. What are the chances that Tank Davis finally does leave Mayweather promote? By the way, Jimmy, I didn't hear you, but did you talk about that, about whether Tank Davis really is out from under the clutches of Mayweather?
Yes, I believe he is. I mean, well, he's still signed to Al Heyman into the PBC. Like we said from the beginning, even if he does leave Floyd, I don't see him leaving Al Heyman or leaving the PBC. He just switched to Tom Brown. But he's still under Al Heyman, but if he's not with Floyd anymore, he might have a better chance at actually fighting somebody, because I really believe that it was Floyd pushing that agenda of, fighting nothing but in-house, protecting that O at all costs, and building him up, even if it's under, the guise of hatred, just to get his name out there. But yeah, so it right now, the fact that the kid he's about to fight, even though it should be an asterisk next to his name because they're dragging him up from a lower weight class, still going to be the toughest fight he's fought in almost 6 years. This kid, Hector Garcia. It's not an easy fight for him, even though they're dragging a dude up. Going to be his toughest opponent. Would that fight have happened if he was still with Mayweather? Who knows?
Interesting question. And by the way, a lot of people are now theorizing, and it's a bad theory or a negative one, that this whole thing about him signing to fight Ryan Garcia or getting ready to sign to fight, they're claiming, some people are claiming that it might have just been a ruse to hype up the Hector Garcia fight because Tank Davis really does seem to be... Because apparently the judge said weeks ago in the Davis case that, hey, no, they rejected a no prison deal. So there's going to be some sort of prison time according to them. Then there's other people that say, well, don't expect Tank Davis to see the inside of a jail with the culture we're living in now and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know, man. What do you fellas think?
I'm not sure about that part. First, let me talk about his career before I get into the legal aspect that I'm going to sit down and give you my in on him when I have absolutely no law degree at all whatsoever. The fact that Jimmy said that he might actually be able to get some of these fights now, PBC's proven the fact that it doesn't matter who your promoter is under PBC, you rarely fight somebody outside of the PBC. And even if you fight somebody outside of the PBC, they're like a lower level promoter or manager who still uses PBC as their promotional company, similar to what Boots Ennis is doing. He's not an Al Heyman fighter, but he still fights under that umbrella. Why, I don't know. But they've never really proven the fact that they want to go out of their way outside of when Canelo had something that they had something Canelo wanted, which was a belt to be undisputed at 168. That's the only big time scenario I've seen where they go out of their way to negotiate with somebody else. when they were negotiating with Munguia and DAZN pretty much pushed De La Hoya to say, hey, we want in on this. And so that's what De La Hoya did. They shut the door and said, no, never mind. We're not going to play anymore. You don't get to fight us. And I get the fact that De La Hoya is probably more to blame for that. And he's the guy that got the black eye for it. But the first scenario they could take about not going any further into negotiations, it was fine with them to not fight a foreign fighter, meaning someone under their umbrella. So just because Tank may actually leave Floyd and Ellerby doesn't mean he's going to get any fights outside of the PBC, because PBC themselves as a company as a whole, regardless of Floyd and Ellerby's connection with them or not, have not shown the willingness to go out of their way to try and make big fights with other corporations, unless it's a cherry pick gone wrong like Tyson Fury.
I mean, yeah, that's why we're looking at it too, man. I mean, this fucking De La Hoya, he was having some strife with Ryan Garcia too, and in fact, based on some of the stuff we've been told about what goes on behind the scenes, Ryan Garcia for a while was a problem himself. A lot of complaining, asking for what's the word I'm looking for here? Outrageous demands or outlandish demands, making outlandish demands. So, I mean, I don't know, but Ryan Garcia
more than he was willing to give, more than he was bringing in. Yes.
Yeah, but hey, listen, I give Ryan Garcia credit for him pressing in the ring now. He's a guy that could rely on just fighting from the outside, letting guys come to him. He's actually pressing the pace in those fights, chasing guys down. So maybe that's translated outside the ring too, and he's starting to become a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for, professional about his prospects in terms of business. But we'll see what happens with Tank Davis, man. Hopefully he separates himself. Yeah.
I think a lot has to do with coming up with what's going to happen with Showtime. Are they going to be folded over into the Paramount app into Paramount as a streaming service? And if that's the case, right, I mean, they're going to lose. Like right now, the reason why everything's fight coming up is waiting till next year, including even if they made the Bud Crawford fight against Spence, it wasn't going to be until next year because they're waiting on Showtime's budget. They're waiting on they're waiting on a cable network that for all intents and purposes won't even exist as of the end of next year. What do they do then? And I think that has a lot to do with, like, all of a sudden, Shelley Finkel is now saying, oh, yeah, no, we're willing to go across. We want to make that Joshua fight. We'll go to England. We'll go to Saudi Arabia, whatever you want. All of a sudden, they're like, willing to bend over backwards, really? Or is it because now you realize after that, what did he sell? 77,000 pay-per-views?
If that.
With Helenius? If that, right? So he knows even an Andy Ruiz fight, which was to be the biggest fight they could make for him over at the PBC, that shit doesn't see 100,000. It's not going to get 100,000. Maybe 100,000, right? At 125, no money. Nowhere near to justify the kind of money he wants. So he's willing, we're willing to have it because you know why? The fucking DAZN, you're willing to let him go fight on DAZN and England, all this, because they know DAZN has the money and they can finance it. I think that's going to motivate a lot of fighters to do things, especially if there's no money at their house. So it's real curious to see exactly what happens, but I don't see how the PBC, if it was to exist as it does today, it's going to have to exist on an app.
More than likely, where boxing goes from here outside of ESPN TV, of course they have ESPN Plus, which is also an app. But outside of that, I don't see any other entities really jumping in on old school TV for mainstream viewing. It's going to have to exist somewhere else. Now, it might have been, and don't quote me exactly saying that this was the person I heard it from, but I thought it was Rick Gleiser off of New Sports, Coach Malachi's show, when he was talking about this, and what if it was him, that's where I heard it from. Whatever show I heard it on, they were talking about how Al's looking to try and go someplace, and he's got a stable of people. That's why he's probably not selling off his inventory yet. Like I said, he was going to probably start doing soon. He's not doing it yet because he's trying to find an avenue / network / platform to sell his stuff from. Someone's going to have to want to buy in, give him an offer of saying, we want you. We're going to do business exclusively with you, and then we're going to. And here's your stable of people, and we're going to try and make sure that they make a living based off of you bringing us views and you making us money. It's one of the things I learned when you retired from the military is when you put out a resume, you've got to put out there, how are you going to make our business money? It's not what you can do. It's not how good of you are at your job. It's how are you going to make us money? Okay, so if he's bringing the stable of fighters, what are you bringing? You're bringing Jermall Charlo. How does that benefit us? And this is no disrespect to him as a fighter. He's a good fighter. He's a champion, and he can knock people out. He has the potential to bring excitement, but what does he bring to the table? Has he sold out a venue? Has he sold pay-per-view? Has he done any title unifications? What does he bring to the table? What does, if he's still with Al Heyman but not with Floyd and them, what does Tank bring to the table? You're bringing this as stable. How is that going to make us money?
It's an excellent question.
DAZN, I'm sorry, real quick, B, I'm sorry. DAZN's already pretty much flooded because whatever they do with De La Hoya, then they have Eddie Hearn on the other side. They're probably maxed out with what they're going to be offering anybody else. So there's not a lot of room for anybody else on that platform.
Well, that's why I asked Jimmy. I think it was the last episode. Was okay. Look, let's say the PBC goes over to NBC Sports, right? Just for sake of argument, or any new platform that they haven't been with already, and they go, "Hey, listen, we want to make a deal with you to televise boxing." They're going to look at his track record. They're going to look at how he ruined HBO, ruined Showtime. Hasn't gotten any dates for him, or most dates, a lot of dates for his fighters. They're stagnating. They're complaining. Some of them are jumping ship. Like right, Jimmy? Like, why? They're gonna look at his results. They're gonna go, "What the fuck you doing?" And I know he can. I know Al Heyman. I've heard it. He's a sweet talker, right? He can sweet talk his way into deals, but that can only last as long as your reputation holds up. And his reputation right now, I mean, you have to be a real sucker to get in bed with him.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, Mr. BDA, here's the situation too. Not only does Heyman need to find a platform to host his events, but as he's worked prior, it was the finance money from Waddell and Reed that he used to buy time slots until he could sell events. That never took place. He switched then to taking $50 million from Fox and $50 million from Showtime. Now, if that money's gone, not only, like I said, he have to find a platform willing to show it, but at this stage, he needs to also find a network or platform willing to finance his events, because the PBC is not according to Hoyle, standard promotional company. Al Heyman doesn't finance nothing because he's a manager, an advisor. He's not a promoter. So exactly. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't. Who's going to give them a cash infusion? Because like you said, in order to sell an event, you're going to have to sit down. So you go to a network. They say, okay, again, they're not going to, you can give them all the flowery words in the world. What they're going to look at is one thing, key demographic, and the ratings you did with the key demographic.
That's right.
And when you show that you have consistently put up the lowest numbers of any program you're up against, they're going to be like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You're putting up fucking rerun numbers. Like, is it time? Look, there's a time. Eventually, his mismatches, his thrown together, go nowhere fights, put in, geographical locations that had no relevance to the fighters. It's going to come back to haunt him, and here he is. Because now, how does he sell a product that has shown to be a dog?
In 8 years, he's gone from mainstream NBC primetime Saturday night to whatever Showtime will give him. Been canceled off NBC, been canceled off of Spike, been canceled off of Fox at the end of this year, and is holding on by a thread with Showtime. This is his success. He took guys that were already established based off of the work that Oscar De La Hoya did with his promotional company. The same thing he did when he was in music. He worked with Janet Jackson and Beyonce and people like that, but he didn't build any of them. They were already successful. He just came into the production side. He comes into boxing and gets on board with Oscar. I don't know what he did prior to that. I don't know his entire reputation in the boxing world, but he got in good with Golden Boy when Golden Boy was at the peak and controlling every fight that was on HBO. And he managed these guys. He still manages them. And then swiped them out from under De La Hoya. So he had guys that were already established post Manny Floyd era of all this stuff. And then what happened? He's quit after he couldn't afford to put Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia and them on regular air anymore. We started getting Peter Quillen versus Andy Lee, and nobody wanted to watch that on primetime Saturday night. So NBC got rid of him. And then what did he do? He went over to Spike. I don't even know how long he was on Spike.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
By the time
Spike.
I realized it was on Spike, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
I said I'd forgotten about Spike, yeah.
Yeah, so by the time I actually realized it was on Spike, he'd already lost that contract. And so now he's on Fox. And we're not sitting here trying to badmouth Al Heyman like he's incompetent. He obviously knows how to put deals together because he's made them happen. But when it comes time for staying in the big, look at Bob Arum, perfect example. He's been doing this for decades. He's still doing it now. That's the role model you should have, not the Don King method, because Don King was big in the 70s, took a break in the 80s, was big in the 90s, again with Mike Tyson, Chavez, and Trinidad. And then when they got old, what happened to Don King? He's not even relevant anymore. But Bob's still here.
Away. Yeah, man. I mean, listen. Some people are gonna say, "Well, why are you shitting on Al Heyman? Because he deserves it, maybe." I don't know. They think we're doing it for the fun of it, and believe me, it's not fun for me because I want to move on from this subject. Believe me, but yeah. You look at the facts. Do you really disagree with anything Chief and Jimmy are saying about that? The way they break it down, because I can't. So people got to be realistic. Yeah, people got to be realistic about it. And look, boxing is in dire straits right now, especially the inactivity factor. That's one thing that's really going to hurt us boxing fans as well in the long term in terms of entertainment. But I do believe that once the PBC withers away, it's going to offer some relief. That's the way I see it. All right, well, listen. We covered a lot of subjects. I think it's time we wrap it up. Oh, hold on a second. We got a phone call here. Phone line's been quiet lately. 214, you're on the air. 214, what's... Oh, excuse me. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, go ahead, 214, you're on the air.
Oh, hey. What's up? What's up, guys? Man, I was waiting for you guys to do a live stream, but I fell asleep.
Well, actually, hold on a second. Let me call back because... Hold on. You're going to have to call back because I fucked something up here and you're very low. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. I hold on a second. Ah, shit. I was waiting for somebody to call in and then somebody finally calls in and this fucking... I got to tell you, I don't know if this is another 10-8 round. Start off shaky. We made a comeback.
Now, press 1. Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
There you go. Thank you, sweetie. All right. Sorry, caller. Call back 214. We'll get you right back up here. We'll set you up. We're okay, fellas. We're okay.
Thank you, sweetie.
And it's a recording. I'm acting like a crazy person here talking to a recording.
No, it's like your old school. Hey, thank you, sugar tits.
Well, it is a sugar tits, first of all. And most women, if they're honest, they'll tell you they like it when you call them shit like that, like pudding pops, tenderloin, shit like that. But he's back. Hold on a second. 214, you're back on the air. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, fantastic. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think Regis Prograis. Yeah, I think if he's not number one, he should be number two. In my opinion, I think he's been. I think he's just as good as Taylor. It's just that he hasn't been able to get the opposition after he lost to Taylor. You know, they start putting, like I said, I think I said this before. They start treating him like an opponent and just putting him on guys' undercards. I think he was on Barrios' undercard at one time when he fought Ryan Carl, I believe. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was.
I think Barrios.
He fought on the I think he fought on the Davis Santa Cruz undercard. Yeah, that was that was his brief interlude there.
Yeah.
With the PBC.
Yeah, he was on. They started putting him on undercards instead of main events, or because he's not like a huge talker. Regis isn't a huge talker. You know, he's not super young either. So that's what happened to him. And
that's right.
You know, it was good that he got his opportunity. And, you know, and I think and now he's going to get to fight Jose Ramirez, which I think is another great fight. And I think I think if he's not number one, I think he's number two.
So who do you want to see him fight next?
As for,
Who would you like to see him fight next?
Ramirez. He said he's been wanting to fight Ramirez for years.
Well, hopefully it happens, man. I think that would be an interesting fight. You went to say something else?
Yeah, the Parker and the Ryder fight. I thought it was starting to be a good fight before they weirdly stopped it. You know, he said he had a broken hand. I would like to see him at least fight 2 more, maybe three more rounds. You know, I've seen fighters, you know, with a lot of messed up injuries fight all the way to the end of the fight. You know, I just felt like they gave up too easily.
Yeah, man, that's what Gonzalo said. I mean, Gonzalo said he felt maybe Parker felt the pace getting to him a little bit, and he said, you know what, before it gets any worse, because it's bizarre, man. Like you said, was the hand completely gone? That he felt like, hey, I'm not even going to try anymore? That was weird, man, and disappointing, to say the least.
The only thing I can think of was a broken thumb. Like his fist was broken near his thumb. That's really painful, no matter how you throw it. If you get a boxer's break in the back of your hand, you can kind of fake it. But yeah, very strange to see a guy quit a fight because of broken hands.
Caller, anything else?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, it's kind of weird. Like, I try to tell boxers, whenever I comment on boxers, I always tell them to watch what they say, because anything can happen. You know, he was out here questioning Demetrius Andrade's injury, and now a lot of people are questioning his injury. You know, so that's why I tell boxers. I comment about that a lot. You know, be careful what you say, because anything can happen to anybody. And now everybody's calling him a quitter and all this other stuff. I don't even know the extent of his injury. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll see what happens, but that's a lesson too for boxers out there to keep quiet, stay quiet about their comments. Or silence is golden in most cases, and especially for boxers, because what they say could come back to bite them in the ass. But listen, caller, we got to move on. But thank you for your call, and call back next time, all right, man?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, man. But you know what, Gonzalo, you brought up that point earlier during the show about how I got to blame too partially this new form of media where people show up with the cameras and all that. They need quotes for their videos so they can put something salacious in the title to attract viewers, and that's usually what they do. So they ask questions like, "This guy said this about you. What do you think?" Blah blah blah. They want that juicy quote that they can put on the title, and usually that's centered on antagonism, fighters calling each other out or criticizing each other. So, you know, that's how a lot of these guys get that out of fighters. A lot of this new boxing media. So it's partially the media.
You know, earlier I remember somebody mentioned in the comments, and you said it, that you read the comment out loud, that Ryder's like soft as a muffin or something. Dude, I think if the other guy, if he broke his hand, it reminds me of the movie, the Shawshank Redemption, when the fat dude says, "Hey, muffin." Remember that when they say they're gonna rape him? Now, if look at John Ryder's body type, and I mentioned Pitbull Cruz. If you're short, compact, like a fucking like a rock, man. If you bust your hands, when usually, like, say for example, Ryder was punching real softies. Where sometimes if you can punch like really really hard, you ain't gonna hold back, dude. But if you're hitting something that's solid, and you hit really hard, man, you're gonna end up hurting your hand the harder you try to punch when it's meeting another hard object. And that dude, if he's shelling up and he's hitting that dude, for example, of Parker hit Ryder's like elbows or maybe like the forearm or the top of the head, that's how he busted his hand. And that's one quality that belongs to John Ryder, just like the same as it does to Pitbull Cruz. So I mean that could have happened, but it's It's because the guy you were facing. So the dude was shelling up. He was bracing his body. He was coming forward, and his hard punches were not damaging Ryder. So and he realized that he wasn't going to get any better. He was taking the punishment. Look at that body. Look at the body type that dude got.
Yeah, that could be something that might fly under the radar for a lot of people, what you're saying there. And, hey, listen, it's also punch technique. We've talked about it before. Power punching is related somehow or somewhat to technique. And some of these guys, they're not used to that. Instead of focusing on how to punch properly, they're doing the pad work there for the media, doing the shoulder roll, like, those 20 punch combinations where they're just tapping. And it's really mostly, it's the trainer that's, he's drenched in sweat because he's working just as hard. He's not harder than the boxer. So, man, a lot of these guys, they need to work on punching technique because you can bust up your hands quite easily in a professional match.
Choreograph mitt dancing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it. That's all
Did you say mitt? Did you say mitt dancing or mick dancing?
Yeah, mitt, as in punching the mitts. Choreographed mitt dancing.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. And a lot of people, they think, it has to have its use as well. Don't get me wrong, but you want to learn how to punch. You got to punch through the target. If you're the trainer, stop trying to fucking tap hard on the other guy's punch so you can hear him. Just hold him and tap a little bit so that the guy can work on his precision too. Because that also has something to do with it, to what Gonzalo has been trying to say, that it's about the precision too. And when you're wearing these 10-ounce gloves, and Jimmy, you've mentioned that too, the old school trick that guys do when they block body punches, they put the elbow out just a tiny little bit so that the other guy might bust up his hand on your elbow. So you got to be very wary of that too. Or boxers have to be wary of that. So it's one thing to spar with the 16-ounce gloves. It's another one when you're punching 7-8 rounds, punching another guy over the head. Your hands start to get numb too. Professional boxers will tell you that.
I saw a couple of guys from the DAZN card. The British 140-pound kid McCormick. He was a silver mitten. He won a silver medal at the Worlds. McCormick, right? Yeah, 140. Throw punches from angles that if he would have caught the back of his head or the top of his head, he would have shattered his hand. I saw a lot of things about him last night I didn't like. I don't know if you guys caught that fight, but yeah, he was very robotic, very stiff.
I didn't see
at all, that kid.
I didn't see. I didn't see the Jalilov fight either. A lot of people are high on him. The heavyweight. Somebody else fought. There were women fighting. I didn't catch that.
Fabricio Warden I'm thinking of a UFC fighter. He fought the Gorman guy. He's pretty good. Yeah, and I mentioned I would like Wardley. Yeah, I mentioned in the Discord. I would like to see that guy face like an Andy Ruiz because when he got hurt, it brought something out of him. And I said, this guy's a fucking power puncher. No, but they put smiley faces. What are you talking about? No, he's too inexperienced. Andy would kill him. He's not. But I'm saying that dude's aggressive. He's got youth, punching power, and when you hit him, it brings the beast out of him.
Yeah,
I'm not saying now, but that's kind of like what Andy Ruiz does. When they hit him, he gets mad, and it brings out the destroyer. He fucking wants to fight. Mm-hmm. I'm saying I think he's good. He's talented. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. For a kid who the two amateur fights, so basically non-existent, just turned pro. It's impressive. I think he actually has a lot of natural raw talent. I think he has quick hands. I think he has a nice snap on his punches. And like you said, he's mean. When you hurt him, he wants to bite down on his mouthpiece and bring it back to you. He wants to instantly get his get back, right? Even if it's not what he should be doing, but that makes a good fighting. I think Zepeda needed some of that. That's what he's lacking. And that's what he lacked last night. I thought he was on cruise control too many rounds.
That's a great quality, man, that a lot of people, and that's why the best need to fight the best, like I said in the beginning of the show, to thin the herd. Because the more these guys are protected and they're fighting nobodies, you start getting bloated records, bloated divisions. You think everyone's gold. Some of these guys aren't gold. They're not even copper. They got to fight each other, thin the herd, see who's the best is. And that's what happened at 140 a couple of years ago. The best fought the best, and Josh Taylor came out on top. Now it's been repopulated with new talent, and there's big questions being asked about who the best is right now. so they need to fight each other. Same thing with the lightweight division. Everyone's a star apparently. And Davis is in, yeah.
BD, I was also gonna mention. Sorry, I was gonna say. Freaking! Did you watch? I mean, they're all named Vargas. Fernando Vargas Jr., the older one. He's 27, 7 wins, 7 knockouts. What do you think? The younger one's good. The other younger one, the power puncher. But what do you think about this guy?
I didn't see him, man, but I heard people in the Discord
there with the cameras.
Yeah, I heard people in the Discord saying that he's not that. He's not like the power punching brother. What did you think? Because I didn't see the fight.
Well, he all his fights are he's won them by knockout. But I know he's facing unheralded, like really like freaking debutantes, fucking tomato cans. Guys that can just make them look good. So yeah, but the thing is that what calls out my attention is he's 27. The younger brother, he's 18. El General. He's got a future. He punches like his brother, but I mean he's obviously the 18-year-old that one that fought 2 weeks ago or a week ago. He's got potential to like actually develop as a boxer, and he already got the power. Where this guy looks like he's a late starter because he's 27 and only got the 7 fights.
Interesting.
That's just a weird one. But they're promoting him, and he's gonna make millions. No, Jimmy. That's the thing.
Yeah, and one thing I found about that kid, he was fighting Gorman, that guy Quarterly last night. He was fighting this kid, right? And you're going into the fight, and you're listening to them talk in their interviews, and you listen to Gorman. Well, this fight, it reinvigorated my love for the sport. I've never been this dedicated, yada yada yada. And then you come out there, and you look like it's fucking Flavio against Flabio. You know what I mean? It's like, really, dude? You're showing up with that kind of a spare tire around your gut? You're that fat? You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, oh, this has motivated me and got me a love for the sport like never have. And I understand this is do or die. I lose now and my career is over. So you got all that on the line. You've invigorated your love for the sport. And you show up there with the fucking girth around your waist like that? Come on. Stop it. So,
and by the way,
you either one. Yeah. Anyway,
sorry, Jimmy. Yeah.
No, go what you're saying, Mr. BDA.
I was just going to read a super chat here from Tu Abuela, who says, I heard Prograis yell, fuck Southpaw 773 in round 5. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of people that dislike that fella. Very rambunctious, I must say. But shout out to Tu Abuela for his contribution. JJ in the chat says...
He was yelling at somebody, BDA. When he knocked out Zepeda, he was yelling at somebody immediately after. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't see that.
What the fuck is he doing?
I thought he was just yelling at maybe at the crowd because he was a pro Zepeda crowd. But hey, by the way, JJ in the chat says it's very common for boxers to kill the nerves in their knuckles so they can punch hard without feeling the pain. Zoo does this, and he broke both his hands in his last fight. Oh, he broke his... I didn't know that. Against
that's why
it's
taking so long for the Charlo fight to happen. Because he had to have something done to his hand because he hurt it in his last fight.
Interesting. Very interesting. I didn't know that. Very informative. Well, listen, fellas, we've hit the 2-hour mark here. I think it's time we wrap it up. I want to give a big shout out to everybody that joined us here. As always, the G Marino, Gonzalo, Boxing Chief. Thank you so much for joining us, fellas. Gonna return.
Thank you, sir.
In the middle of the week to cover the Estrada fight. It's going to be taking place next Saturday. I mean, what? There's not much to say about Tyson Fury versus Chisora, other than the fact that I heard some people are saying, oh, they already sold 50,000 tickets. But from what World Boxing said, which is a website, they claim that a lot of those tickets actually went on the resale sites right off the bat. So who knows how many people are actually going to show up at the arena, especially so close to Christmas. So, I don't know.
I hope it's a dog.
I don't think Tyson Fury... And you know what? I don't think Tyson Fury would care. I think as long as he gets his money, he's fine and dandy.
I mean, what a joke.
Hey, Chief, you know who Zepeda reminds me? You probably know Carlos El Bolillo Gonzalez.
I do
real
remember
powerful
him.
Guy. Yeah, I just thought to say that real quick.
Listen, bringing him up, I'm going to go back and look at that, see if I have any of his in my collection. If not, I'm going to go get some.
you guys? Was he a Colombian fighter?
Yeah, knockout puncher. Ended up getting. What's that, BD?
Was he a Colombian fighter or who was he?
No, he was a Mexican dude.
He was.
They say it was
Mexican.
going to be Chavez.
Yeah, WBO junior welterweight champion. Picked it off. I forget who he beat, but I remember he and Zach Padilla, I think, had a little go around too, if I remember correctly. Zach Padilla was a tough son of a gun too.
Giovanni Parisi, he got stopped by Randall Bailey, but he had like 60 knockouts.
He got robbed against Parisi, and then he beat him in the rematch, and then Randall Bailey knocked him out in one round. And I was thinking he just caught him cold, but that was the last I really heard from him as a major player. And well, we know what happened to Randall Bailey. He was a hot and cold fighter, and he was king of the B fighters. He could knock you out if you were a B fighter, but didn't always step up very well. Met him before though. He's a really nice guy. He just wasn't. His power was not A+ level. It didn't translate into the world title stage.
Yeah, shout out to Randall Bailey. He was on the show here about 5 years ago. Shout out to him. Very entertaining character too as well. Well, listen, fellas.
Yeah, he was.
With that being said, we do have to move on. But again, like I want to reiterate, shout out to Jimmy, shout out to Gonzalo, shout out to Chief. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Shout out to everybody that joined us via the super chat or that contributed via the super chat, all the membership program extensions that occurred there. Shout out to you, fellas. Don't forget, check out to Abuela's channel. He does some great compilations of some of the more egregious characters out there in the YouTube community. Shout out to everybody that joined us, everybody that listened. Shout out to you, fellas. Don't forget to hit the like on the way out if you haven't done so already. Subscribe. We are on the true path to the Crimson Cross, and we all have to stay together in that path if we're going to reach some form of enlightenment. Shout out to the Chitlin Distributor, The Truth Hurts, Rod Rook Davis, Eparokua, some weird name there, Doom something 13, Dennis F. from Boston. Shout out to Dennis, JJ, Super Sardonics, JA, the aforementioned to Abuela, Reverend Pickles, Virtuoso, Hassam Ahmed, Jonathan Morrison, aka Jackson, and many more people. Shout out to you, fellas. Thank you for joining us. If I missed anybody, it's because we got to go. But shout out to you, fellas. Matador says BD gonna